so much, and good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming at the start of our second day. Before I jump in, I'm going to actually take Dwayne's advice and share with you, a little something personal to be authentic here. It's been hard for me to be here these past couple of days. I left my home and my family and my friends right after I heard the news of this devastating terrorist attack in Israel. That at this point has murdered more than 900 people, as you've been reading. Women, children, kidnapped over 100 plus. We don't even know how many yet. My wife's from Israel. I myself lived there for a couple of years, and we have family. I have two nephews, teenagers, in the military, so they've been deployed down south, and we're worried about them. So it's hard to be here and not, be distracted. And I want to say, I feel deep gratitude for people here. I didn't know anybody, and so many people have been thoughtful and kind and come up and express their support and concern, and it's really been amazingly helpful. So thank you all for that. So I'm going to talk with you for the next just 15 minutes. So if I can have that much time, I think I can do it, and share with you a story about the most exciting thing that I do in my job as CEO at the New Jewish Home. Which is a healthcare system for older people, been around 175 years, very different than what a lot of folks here do, traditional nursing homes, 815 beds, and a mission-driven nonprofit that is losing money. And I raise a lot of money every year, and we dig into our endowment, and we try and cover those gaps that keep increasing because of the majority of Medicaid patients that we care for. 70+% of our 8,000 or so people we care for in our buildings and at home, they're on Medicaid. And so I'm going to start with a little journey back to how I got here. And this one might be a little bit also like Dwayne in terms of his advice for hiring outside the industry and plug for cross-fertilization, if you will, of different industries. Why would you do that? And what's wrong with you? These are the things that people told me when I was training in medicine at Columbia in New York City, when I told them I wanted to go into geriatrics. It was like I'd grown a third arm, and it continued. Well, you could be doing, and then they would name all of these wonderfully prestigious and lucrative fields. You could be doing cardiology and gastroenterology and oncology. Like, why would you do this? And I imagine, and as I talk to people here, I love asking, how you got into this field, right? Of senior housing, senior living, aging services, however you define it. And that's why, right? Because I share that same thing. Many people talk about their grandparents and how close they were to them, and it meant a lot. And we heard about that from some folks yesterday. And others talk about how they never had grandparents who died before they got to know them, and they went and sought that relationship and companionship as volunteers in nursing homes at a young age, and then again, we're drawn into this. And that's why we're here, and I think that's our greatest asset, by the way. While we have demographic tailwinds that we all know are tremendous and bigger than any other sector here for a long time to come in terms of the growth of the aging population, we also have significant headwinds here because it's not an attractive industry. And the pandemic only fueled that narrative, in my view, extremely false narrative and harmful narrative, that aging services is, not where you want to be. And so much so that we need to, work on immigration to bring in people from outside the country because nobody here in their right mind would work in this field. And so let's do that. And so be happy to take some questions afterwards perhaps about that, but I think there's another path to do it. And I don't stand here saying I have the answer. I'll take it as a challenge from yesterday's housing panel about, ideas that don't work or silver bullets. This isn't a silver bullet, but this is a homegrown, community-based and community-supported program that we've developed 16 years ago, way before we had a workforce shortage crisis, when we recognized that not enough young people were coming into the field. And we had the booming generation of older people that needed help, and what do? And so 16 years ago, we started with a local public high school in New York City, in an under-resourced neighborhood. Half of the kids maybe graduate from that high school, about 50% graduation rates, and said, come after school and we'll help you with school. We'll mentor you and give you some tutoring. But we'll also get you exposed to older people, we'll get you up on the floors, and we'll train you to become a certified nursing assistant. So you'll graduate high school, and you'll graduate with a certification in a health field that's the fastest growing sector of the private economy and immediately employable. And that program quickly grew over the years to 10 public high schools in the Harlem and the Bronx. We have over 225 kids, adolescents, sophomores, juniors, seniors, that are on the floors, that are doing their thing, and that we're working with. And then we evolved and grew a second program because we realized there were a lot of young adults who were kind of 18 to 27, let's say, that were disconnected from either work or school. 40% hadn't finished high school. A similar number had homelessness in their recent past. Similar number were single parents, really difficult life situations. And they're looking for an opportunity, right? To have an opportunity, to have a career and to make something of their lives. And we started a program there too. So I'm going to share with you first a 2.5-minute video.
Young adults around the borough seeking career opportunities. One program is playing matchmaker. Craig Mocker has a story from the Upper West Side.
One. Is there any pain?
No. These students take special care in their classroom as they study to be certified nursing assistants and enter the medical profession.
Do you need anything else for today? No, thank you.
Real world experience and a job are right around the corner for them at the New Jewish Home on West 106th Street, a residential care facility in Manhattan.
I wasn't really too sure about my future. Being in this program actually reassured me of what I really wanted to do.
Alexander Pena Gomez is part of the program called SkillSpring.
I plan to change my major to nursing to further my career for the medical field.
It started at the New Jewish Home as a way to introduce a medical career to young adults and have them meet some of the residents.
I like the colorful ones, I like that one.
They mean the world to Dominga Marquez.
She's very careful, caring. We talk like friends. She tells me about her kids, I'll tell her about my family.
They provide you with resources, they provide you with direction, and they provide you with motivation and ambition.
Darlene Corporan went through the training and went on to get a degree.
That's your jam, right? Oh my God.
She came back for a job as clinical care manager.
I love it because I never grew up with my grandparents, and I'm able to spend some QT grandparent time with them.
Geriatrics Career Development is the technical name of the field and the program.
Empathy is top of the list, right? Empathy, compassion, a desire to work with older adults.
The New Jewish Home developed it in-house 16 years ago. 1,000 students have graduated. Now they work with social service agencies and 10 high schools in the city to attract new students and connect generations.
We take young adults from all over the city, create, prepare, and deliver all sorts of training and skills and immediately employable jobs.
Next year, the New Jewish Home will celebrate its 175th anniversary. Contact them for more information as they expand the program to other healthcare providers, spreading the opportunities and the care. On the Upper West Side, Greg Mocker, Pix 11 News.
As you saw, I feel that the program, once I came to Jewish Home 6 years ago and started doing deep inquiry and kind of learning about the organization and really understanding what's happening so I can chart a course and revisit strategy, I realized that this program that was sort of a small, nice thing that we do, local, grant funded and supported, we get some donors and some foundations that like this, was really a diamond in the rough. And there's no reason that we can't make this available and replicate the successes that we've had in other geographies, primarily urban centers, because we're looking for places where there's density and good public transportation, because the kids, need to get to places, and most of them don't drive, right? And we've started to do that, and we've developed 2 programs, if you will, that we're very eager and are now getting, I'm excited by, a lot of interest in expanding and scaling and replicating. I'm going to talk about each one for a little bit here. The high school program that I mentioned at the beginning is a more of a longitudinal, deep relationship building with your community, where the schools become connected with us, and there's a pathway for these students to have all of the support that they need. So the healthcare training I mentioned, and the healthcare training isn't just certified nursing assistants. We've trained home health aides, patient care technicians, EKG techs, phlebotomists, housekeeping, and food service workers as well, because we recognize that there's a lot of needs that the organization and others have for workers in the field. The applied work experience is, I think, one of the key features of this. What we do is have the students spend time up on the floors, and part of their training is a paid internship component of it. So they really get to work alongside their future colleagues. The organization gets a chance to sort of test drive, if you will, the young students and future employees. And we help them with all of the other barriers to success, all of the social barriers, challenges, determinants, financial literacy, life skills. That's the human development component of this. And in the high school program, it's a big part about college prep. Almost all of our students are first in their family to go to college. About 2/3 are living below the poverty level in families that are almost all first-generation immigrants. And they don't have this access and support that we kind of take for granted. That's part of the usual routine when you launch your kids after school towards college. So we organize trips, bring them to schools to visit, again, a thing that they never would have been able to do, and help prepare them. And we've had remarkable results that you can see on the right-hand side. The beauty of this, I think, is this last bullet on the bottom, the intergenerational relationships. Kind of like, struck a chord for me when Steve spoke yesterday about this beautiful concept he's building near Atlanta of inclusivity, right? So it's not a place for old people, it's a place for society where older people have a home. They have a place within that larger fabric of society. And here what we're doing is taking children in their formative years, right? The adolescent years when they're developing their sense of who they are and their life view, and exposing them to older people where everybody else in the society says, I'll never step foot in a nursing home, I don't ever want to go there, if I need it, shoot me, right? We have this incredibly strong ageism underlying all of that, which relates to the chronic underfunding, right? Because it comes from ageism, and the workforce shortage is the same result of this false narrative that this is a bad thing to do, an undesirable career. And building those relationships, you see the magic and people recognize the value in it. And you heard Dominga, for example, one of our residents, describing how close she feels with the students that come and work with her. They all graduate now, and these are from schools, all 10. We just signed an 11th school in the Bronx last week, and we have a 12th high school because we got some additional funding this year that I was able to fundraise for, also in the Bronx. So we can add about 25 new students on top of the 225 that we already serve. And it's so successful, it's actually more successful as a high school enrichment program for failing under-resourced high schools where they have 50% graduation rates than it is as a workforce pipeline, because they're all going to college and they're all doing wonderful things. So we have students that are in Dartmouth now. I have 2 students that went on to medical school. I have one that became a PharmD and went and got a doctorate in pharmacology. I have Darlene, who came back and worked as a LPN and then RN, and now she's a clinical nurse manager up on the floor. You saw her. And so it's a really amazing program, and we replicated this already in Milwaukee. Ovation Communities, if anybody's familiar, it's a relatively small, like Jewish Home, sort of nonprofit Jewish-sponsored organization. And with the help of Leading Age over there about 6 years ago, we replicated and their program is thriving. And we want to do this in other communities as well. The young adult program is more recent, and I'm more excited about it now because of the intense need that we know across this country to have this program. And so here it's a much shorter time period. It's a 3-month program, and we work with social service agencies that we build relationships with. We find and create cohorts of students. Numbers can vary, but 15 is kind of a sweet spot. It could be 10, 15, 18. You get a little bigger than that, and it's hard because there's a cohesiveness, right, and a chemistry that develops amongst the participants. And remember, the participants have extremely challenging life situations. And so there's benefits to being cohorted together, prepared, and then deliver the training. And then after the training, we also have an alumni support program to ensure that they're capable of continuing their career as they enter into the workforce. And we've had several hundred graduates of this program already. We've employed over 3/4 of them. Some, as you've heard, and Darlene have chosen to go on and do other work. And this one we're scaling now locally. So I've got 1, 2, 3 other similar organizations in the New York City metro area that we've started already. Last year we did 2, this year we're doing 4 more cohorts that we're training for them. And again, we're excited and want to bring this to other communities. So shamelessly plugging, I'm hoping that someone will be interested and want to talk about this because we have a lot of traction by it. On the one hand, we've got conversations, for example, at the federal level where Senator Gillibrand in New York has come. She's visited the program. Her staff is involved in trying to support us at the local, at the state level. But beyond that, I think it's a revenue opportunity for our nonprofit health system to support the mission as we continue to care for hundreds of frail, vulnerable older adults towards the end of life. And lastly, these are just some of the stats that we've accumulated over time. A really remarkable program, and again, one that I believe with all my heart can be replicated. It's not the only answer to our workforce shortage crisis. Everything else that we heard about yesterday needs to happen. And we need to create cultures that are welcoming and inclusive and create an environment where people like it. But I'll tell you, like our data, our CNA turnover rate is less than 10%. But once you get your foot in the door and once you get people to come, then the rest is really easy because you do feel that magic and that chemistry and people love what they do. The challenge is overcoming that hurdle, that widely ageist concept that says, why would you do that, right? And you could be doing, which I still get today, by the way, right? And what we do. So I'm gonna stop there. Thank you all, and I hope we still have, I see on the clock, a few minutes for questions, and I'd love to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Yep, hold on.
Great.
Are you able to take everybody into the program, or do you have a waiting list?
Great question. The high school program has grown so attractive because it's been happening for so long that we actually have to interview students now. And what we look for is their motivation for being in the program. It's not like they have to take a test or score a certain thing. We just want to know if they're committed and get a sense of it. So we don't have enough. When I get more funding locally, then I could add, which is why I'm adding an 11th high school now and working on a 12th. On the young adult program, it's different. What we do there is, and the beauty and why I think with urban centers it's going to be the best, like we're having conversations with folks in Philly, in Boston, efforts out here actually in California with some places, because if you have urban centers, there's an existing social service infrastructure, and you find that there are places whose mission is to help underprivileged youth who are disconnected and at risk and find opportunities for them. And so we work in cohort and create that, and there's so much need, it's just a matter of how fast we can scale up what we can do. But thank you for the question.
First off, this is mind-blowing. It is amazing. Bow down to you for what you've done. But can you talk a little bit more about how you fund this?
Yeah, 100%. So historically, the program was always self-funded through philanthropy and our own foundation. And it was a small program. Grew and it became $1 million, maybe $2 million a year. We would get grants of $25,000 from this foundation, $50,000 from that foundation. I started to sort of sponsor the student program a couple years ago. So the high school program cost us about $6,000 per person per year. I mean, that's what it costs us to run it. And so we have like a sponsor a student and not just donate the $18,000, which happens to also be an important number in Jewish culture. It means life, chai, so it's a nice thing that resonates with some folks. You also get to meet the student and develop a relationship and talk about diversify your own social networks. It's what I say to people who ask me that question about what are you doing? Oh, do you have any friends who are in their 80s or 90s? Like, come like a friend and diversify your network that way. And so we do that. Now what we're doing is working very hard to make a business out of it. We feel that there's clear value proposition. I hired a couple people smarter than me that know how to start up these businesses and try and find paying customers that want the services that we can provide and deliver, right, which is what we do, cohorts of trained staff that could solve the workforce shortage crisis to some degree, right, for some places. And the price point we're working on, the young adult program is about $15,000 per person in total, maybe 12 to 15 as we get better and lower things. But keep in mind, some of that involves a stipend, which I feel is very important for the young adults to get to know that they can actually make money, that this is real, that they get paid for part of their training once they're towards the end and up on the floor. That's about $2,000. The certification itself, we partner with different schools. So right now we use Lehman College a lot, which is a CUNY school in City of University of New York. We pay them a couple $1,000s for the course per person. So there's some things that are built in. But as we go out to market and scale, we'll be able to bring that down. So that's how we fund it. Thank you.
Are you able to find post-graduation placement for pretty much everybody that goes through the program?
Yes, and one of our hallmarks is that 100% of our students who graduate the program, they pass their certification exam, they're offered a job. And when we work with other organizations, like the 3 that we've expanded to locally with the young adults, that's their commitment. They have a financial contribution as well, and then we're supporting that, others with grants, but they have to offer them all jobs. And we found, and we're following and tracking how they're doing. Because again, like you could tell a student, go take this class at CUNY and become a certified nursing assistant. There's too many barriers, they're not prepared, they're not gonna be successful, and more likely than not be able to complete it. But the whole package and all of the life skills surrounding it and prep is what really makes this work. And so all of them are employable and get off and job offers. We do graduations. If you ever want like an uplifting hour, keep in touch. I'll send you the dates of our graduations for our cohorts, and you see the family that comes to support them and how proud these young people are of what they've accomplished. And it's just soul nourishing.
Great. Do we have any additional? We have one more question. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you mentioned briefly the other life skills. So do you partner with companies to help bring that in? Because those I've found are some of the biggest barriers, just to help them stay focused on learning. And are those funded in a different way?
That's a great question, and thank you. I should have built that in. Nicole, who you saw in the video and talked about empathy being a key characteristic, she's our director of the program, and we've got an amazing team, and a lot of them have actually gone through the program themselves, and I think that's the magic. So the answer is we provide that life skill training. We do have volunteers that come in. We have, retired teachers that like to come in and do tutoring for free, and mentor and help and go on those trips and help them. But our core team of about 12 people in the New York City area, and we've hired a couple of new people as we look to expand in other geographies, are really the magic that helps people do that. The other thing is as we build the mentorship program, it's not only do we get philanthropy from individuals that want to help and do good and feel that they're connecting with the recipient of their giving, but they do that, right? Because they're successful, they've had their thing, and they teach and they train, and people really thrive on that. Plus, the older people they interact with up on the floors do some of that teaching too, because it gives them purpose and meaning, right? They have a reason to get up in the morning. They want to help and give back instead of always being on. You see this all the time. That's one of the beauties of geriatrics, right? Our residents created a hand-in-hand committee. They make things, and they sell them, and then they take the proceeds and donate to charity because they need themselves to not be 100% always on the receiving end of other people's goodwill and altruism. They have to feel that they're giving back. And so the residents, so you get a lot of people and sources to do it. We don't pay extra for it. And thank you for that.
Well, listen, this was excellent. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming all the way from my hometown in New York to talk about the awesome program you guys have going.